Obviously, we ourselves must be convinced, but then to communicate with conviction is it's a tremendous way to influence others in Krishna consciousness. So I guess I'll just go right into this talk that I have prepared. Let me get my watch and make sure I know what time it is. So Bhagavan Narada, how long do you think I should go?
I mean, whatever you feel is best. I don't feel we have a time limit. Hour and a half, hour, whatever long it takes.
I don't think it'll take too long. Maybe I'll just set myself for up to 2 o'clock, and then we can have, that's about 35 minutes. So, okay. So on conviction, I looked up the word in the English dictionary. I thought, okay, let me understand English dictionary, Sanskrit dictionary, a little preparation. So conviction is from convince, and in the Latin it's vencere, and I thought, well, yeah, in Spanish there's a word vencer, means to conquer, actually. So the idea of convince means to conquer somebody with argument, to convince somebody. And conviction, it seems to me that conviction could be seen as being oneself convinced that one is convinced about something. So conviction is a little bit different from the Sanskrit. I like to look at both words, the Sanskrit and how it's been translated. So conviction means to be really steady in one's faith. This is the way I interpret it. It's very similar. If you look on the internet, you'll see that faith and conviction are synonyms. But when thinking about the words, faith is a little pejorative. Faith means something that's a little shallow. Well, you have faith in that, you have faith in your God, but I believe in science, that's rational. But you can have convictions that are seen as much more substantial. So I like this word conviction. And when Prabhupada uses it, he tends to use it in a much more, how should I say it, sort of a kind of a fixed mentality, a really convinced mentality, to say the same word as conviction. So I'm going to start with this verse, Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya. This is one of my favorite verses, and I'll tell you why. Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Aghang Dhundwanti Karsnena Niharam Eva Bhaskara. Excuse me. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. So just quickly, this verse comes kind of at the conclusion of a discussion of prayaschitta. Prayaschitta means atonement. And there's an example just before this verse, there's an example that the elephant goes into to take its bath in the lake, and then it comes out and rolls again in the dust and the mud. So that's an analogy for us. We do things that contaminate us. We do this prayaschitta, which means to become purified, but it's temporary. It's atonement. It's temporary. I was just thinking about like going to a priest. Prabhupada would often criticize going to a Catholic priest. You go to confession. You say, well, I swore 5 times this week, and the priest says, that you should chant 5 Hail Marys, and then you say, well, oh, and I forgot, I killed my wife. Okay, 10 more Hail Marys. And so then you, of course I'm joking, but the idea of atonement is that, you know, you continue to come back and back and back again for purification, and just like the elephant bathing in the river and coming out and rolling the dust. So this one is at the conclusion of all this discussion of atonement. Prayaschitta, prayaschitta is rituals, doing various rituals to become purified. So here's Kechit Kevalya Bhaktya. Kechit means someone. Kevalya Bhaktya, through Kevala Bhakti. That's Kevalya Bhaktya means by or through. Kevalya Bhaktya. So Kevala means absolute or fixed. It indicates oneness. And Vasudeva Parayana, the person who is Vasudeva Parayana, the person who is fixed on Vasudeva. This word Parayana is a beautiful word, beautiful, beautiful word. There's another word that's equivalent, synonymous, para. It's simply para. But this word Parayana and para, mat Parayana, mat para, when Krishna says me, being focused on me, and Narayana Parayana, Krishna Parayana, Vasudeva Parayana, all these words are used in the Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. It means one who is devoted to Vasudeva, one who is fixed on Vasudeva, one who is absorbed in Vasudeva. And then the third line, Aghang Dhunvanti Kartsnena. It says the sins, the Aghang, the sins, how does Prabhupada, the weeds of sinful actions, Aghang. And Dhunvanti means dispel the sins. Kartsnena means completely. Niharam, Iva. Iva means like. Niharam, the cloud, Bhaskara, the sun. In other words, like the sun dispels the cloud. So now I have to tell a beautiful story. I really love this verse, and I studied this verse probably 1975. And then in 1976, I went to Mayapur. I had the good fortune of being Prabhupada's secretary for a short time, few weeks. And then we were walking one time. Prabhupada would go on a morning walk at 7 a.m. And often he would go walk down the road in Mayapur and at a quick pace, and his disciples would come with him. But at this time, it was, sometimes he wasn't feeling well, or he was not feeling like going out. So he would just go on the roof of the building. It was a flat roof surrounded by a wall, a low wall, and he would just sort of circumambulate. He would go walk around the roof. And here, let me get to the right place here. So one day we were walking around, and all of a sudden he stopped. And 7 o'clock in the morning, the sun was coming up. And Mayapur is in West Bengal. It's the Ganges Delta. So you can imagine, Ganges Delta means that the Ganges River has gained all its tributaries, the Yamuna, all these little rivulets coming into filling up the Ganges. And then the Ganges spreads out in many fingers, and it enters into its final journey is to go into the Bengal Ocean. What is that? Bay of Bengal. So one of these rivers goes by Mayapur, but it's very lush and fertile. Bengal is just very fertile. Everything grows in Bengal. So a lot of rice paddies. In Mayapur, there were rice paddies, and Prabhupada was then stopping, looking at the sun, out across the rice paddies, and naturally there's going to be fog because there's so much mist or fog that's just hanging there right above the rice paddies. Everything is sort of flooded with just a little water, and the sun comes up, and as the sun is coming up, the fog is dissipating. Here you see that mist is just hanging there right at just above the ground, but then higher up it's been dissipated. So here's another picture of looking out across the rice paddies. And so Prabhupada looked out and he went, Keshit Kirliya Bhaktya Vasudeva Parayana Ghang Dundvanti Kartsnena Niharam Eva Bhaskara. So I just died. I thought, oh, this is amazing. I love it. It's just, first of all, it was so picturesque looking out across the rice paddies standing with Prabhupada and seeing the sun rising, and we know that song Vibhavari Shesha Aloka Provesha Nidra Chari Utto Jiva. It's the sun, Mahaprabhu is coming, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, chant, wake up Jiva, wake up sleeping Jiva, and chant the holy names. So this image of the sun rising in the east and in Mayapur and standing with Prabhupada, and then he quotes this sublime verse. This is obviously one of the highlights of my life. So now we'll go into the lecture that Prabhupada gave. I sort of took from this lecture and summarized it and changed it a little bit, but this is from a lecture that Prabhupada gave on this verse, Kechit Kebalya Bhaktya. So that he says that the problem in this world is being attracted by material enjoyment, and it's difficult to overcome that attraction. And he cited this story of Vishwamitra Muni. So Vishwamitra was one of the greatest sages of ancient times. And after years of austerity, he had some goal to gain power. That he had a little competition with, who is that? Guru of Ram. Anyway, I don't think it's, anyway, slipped my mind. So there was a little competition and he wanted to gain some power. And I think he was a king. He wanted to become a Brahmin. So something like that. Don't quote me. But he meditated for years and years of austerity. And that, of course, involved being detached from material enjoyment. To meditate, as we read from the Gita, brahmacharya is one of the requirements for that kind of meditation. From chapter 6, we know that celibacy, you can't meditate with, and at the same time be attached to material things, material enjoyment. So after years of austerity, somebody, I can't remember that part of the story also. I should have researched better, but I had spent a lot of time on this, some of the other parts. So someone sent Menaka to disrupt his meditation. He was getting so powerful, this Vishwamitra, that someone was, I think it might have been Indra, but I'm not sure. So they sent Menaka, and she was able to break his meditation. They had a daughter named Shakuntala. So Vishwamitra is a great sage. There's no question. I mean, there's no comparison with any of us in this world. He's in another category altogether. But he's given us an example of somebody who was so great and so powerful in his spiritual life, in his connection with the soul, and his knowledge, wisdom, and yet he was also he also had this difficulty with material enjoyment. So understanding that our material enjoyment cannot be uprooted easily, here's a discussion of the word K-chit, who is someone who's a rare person. So I'm going to, whoops, where is that? Let me go back to the verse, K-chit. First word is K-chit. And Prabhupada translates it, you can see down below, only a rare person. Or it means, it can mean just someone. So someone, what did I do? Trying to get back. First, detachment from material desires can't be done. Now we're going to go kind of a progression here. So detachment is a higher thing. It's not easy. First of all, it's only by humans. Humans only can rise to this, are eligible to rise to this position. So it can't be done by animals. Animals are forced by their nature to interact with their senses, interact with the sense objects. They can't rise above and become detached. And there are humans who behave like animals. Now, what does that mean? Humans who behave like animals means they don't follow dharma and they live like animals, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. Ahara, nidra, bhaya, maituna. So doing these four things. Those four things are considered to be the acts of humans that don't follow dharma. And those four things are the same things that animals do. So thus, detachment starts with dharma. Dharma means some regulation of the senses by following laws, taking responsibility, controlling oneself. So we know people like that. A lot of people are like that in the US. They're responsible people. So they follow some kind of a dharma. It's not a very high level dharma, but it's something. And above dharma is understanding that I am soul. And with such understanding, working on detachment from the material world in order to contact the soul, to express myself as soul or Brahman. Then comes meditation on the soul. And then mystic yoga that involves great austerity to control the body and mind in order to reach the soul and supersoul. And finally, Prabhupada explains Kechit, which means someone, and that someone is interested in Kevala Bhakti.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Kevala Bhakti. So again, the verse, Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya. So someone by Kevala Bhakti. And Prabhupada translates it, although literally Kevala means fixed or singular, he translates as complete, unalloyed devotional service. Complete, unalloyed devotional service. I have to get back to my... Why do I keep doing this? So this person, this Kechit, this some person, becomes Vasudeva Parayana. Remember I said Vasudeva Parayana is a beautiful term. Vasudeva Parayana, Krishna Parayana, Narayana Parayana. or Krishna conscious. Prabhupada says Vasudeva Parayana, Krishna conscious. And Vasudeva is Krishna. Vasudeva means the son of Vasudeva, that's Krishna. And Prabhupada writes that firm conviction and steadiness will save you without any doubt. That conviction. So, but what is Vasudeva Parayana? Prabhupada explains that it's not a very easy thing. And I did a little research in the Bhagavatam. Some of the advanced souls who are described as Vasudeva Parayana are Shukadeva. Here's a nice picture of Shukadeva. He used to wander around naked. He was so indifferent to his situation. He was running through the forest. He stayed in the womb for 16 years. It's a beautiful story. And he, hi, Bo? Brady? Okay. Hi, Krishna. Beautiful story. He stayed in the womb for 16 years.
Hare Krishna.
And then he came out of the womb and he ran into the forest, and Vyasa followed him. So he was naked. He was 16 and he was completely unaffected. He ran by some women who were taking bath in the lake and he was unaffected, although he was naked. But Vyas, who ran after him, he was sort of influenced by seeing these naked women in the lake. So Shukdeva Goswami, Vasudeva Parayana. And these on the lower right, you see the four Kumaras. Four Kumaras are sons of Brahmaji. They went to Vaikuntha. So these are also, they are also described as Vasudeva Parayana. Here's Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva was a boy, 5 years old. He went to the forest to meditate and he saw Krishna. Krishna appeared. He's also described as Vasudeva Parayana. So in his discussion of Vasudeva Parayana, Prabhupada quotes from the Gita, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mang Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. So this is a similar verse to this Kechit Kelaya Bhaktya. So why do you think it's similar? Now, if you read Prabhupada's purports carefully and you know just a little Sanskrit, it's not necessary to be a scholar or anything like that, but Prabhupada quotes a lot of Sanskrit when he's lecturing. When I came right in the beginning, I joined right very early. Devotees didn't know anything at all. They had no understanding of philosophy, and yet still, when Prabhupada gave his lectures, he was quoting in Sanskrit. He was giving us these classes sprinkled with Sanskrit verses and explanations of the original language. So it's a good idea to try to understand some of these in order to understand the philosophy. Now, what's the use of understanding the philosophy? It's of no use whatsoever unless one practices the philosophy or tries to practice the philosophy. So anyway, why did Prabhupada quote this verse? Two reasons, at least two reasons. One, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. The word Vasudeva Parayana, or focused on Vasudeva, this word is used Vasudeva Sarvam. It means, Sarvam means everything or all. So iti means quotation marks. So this person comes to know that Vasudeva is everything. So that puts such a person in a position to surrender to Vasudeva, or to have conviction that Vasudeva is everything. So if I have that conviction, then I can surrender to Vasudeva. So what's another reason why this verse is practical for Prabhupada to quote? It's because Kechit. Kechit means someone out of, and as Prabhupada described, someone out of those who follow dharma, out of those who try to contact the soul, out of those who meditate, out of those who are mystic yogis. Someone is a bhakta, a devotee. And here it says that bahunam janmanam ante. Ante means at the end of bahu. Bahu in Hindi, bahut means many. So bahunam janmanam, at the end of many janmas, many births, a Gyanavan, finally somebody has enough intelligence to surrender prapadyate, because Vasudeva Sarvam iti, quotes, end quote, because he realizes, he thinks he's got it, he's convinced that Vasudeva is everything. So after many births and deaths, Prabhupada translates, he who's actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Mahatma, he says, Mahatma sudurlabha. Sudurlabh, lab means to get. So durlabh means difficult to find. And durlabh means difficult to find. Sudurlabh means moreover difficult to find, very difficult, such a person. So as Prabhupada says, I'll go page back to the previous page. Prabhupada says, right at the middle, but what is Vasudeva Parayana? Prabhupada explains that it's not a very easy thing. So again, paging back down. After many births and deaths, and Prabhupada comments, after many births, I come to know what I am and what is my duty. So it's not just that he understands Vasudeva Sarvam, that Vasudeva is everything. He knows now what is my duty. It's to serve Krishna. So moreover, and now that was Prabhupada's purport, or part of it. So now I've added something. I decided, okay, I'm going to add this, some favorite section of mine from Bhagavad Gita. So there's something else similar to the idea of Vasudeva Parayana in the Gita. Krishna in the Gita, he uses that word Parayana, Mat Parayana, absorbed in me. But here he uses another word. We're going to get to it later in a minute. But here there's this idea of Kevala Bhakti. I don't know if you remember, I said Kevala Bhakti. It's, again, from this verse, the first line, Kechit Kevalaya Bhaktya, means through Kevala Bhakta. And Prabhupada says in the first line of Prabhupada's purport, translation rather, complete unalloyed bhakti. So fixed, in other words, fixed bhakti. So in the Gita, Krishna talks about stita pragya. So stita means fixed and pragya means wisdom or intelligence. And Arjuna is confused about this. In verse 54, he asks, stita pragyasya ka bhasha. So it's a stita samadhistasya keshava stita dhi king prabhasheta kimasita brajeta king. But the basic idea of this verse is, how does one become fixed? What are the characteristics of somebody who's a stita pragya? So then Krishna replies with a series of verses, 55 to 6, 57, 58 to 9, 60. 55 basically says, by giving up kama, one is stita pragya. Then by being detached, one is stita pragya. By being equal in pain and pleasure, one is stita pragya. By withdrawing one's senses like a tortoise, one is stita pragya. But then 59, he says, but it's difficult and not done artificially. And number 60, he says, it is so difficult that even a wise person can be carried away by the senses like a boat is carried away by the wind on the water. So, but what's his conclusion after setting us up here? He explains all these things are characteristics of Sthita Pragya. That's what Arjuna wanted to know. But then at the end, he gives us a caution. But look, this is a difficult proposition to be like this. When going back, that to give up desire, to be detached, to be equal in pain and pleasure, to withdraw one's senses, difficult. So he says, Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita matpara shehi yasi indriyani tasya pragya pratishtita. And Prabhupada translates, one who restrains his senses and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of steady intelligence. So these two words I put in bold, matpara is basically the same as Vasudeva Parayana. This verse that we're discussing right here, the second line of the verse, Vasudeva Parayana, means absorbed in Krishna. Vasudeva is the name for Krishna. So matpara means absorbed in me. And Prabhupada translates it as fixes his consciousness upon me. Fixed on me. So he is known as a Sthita Pragya, or in this case, Pragya Pratishtita. Tishtita is from the root sta, just like Sthita. So he's known as a man of steady intelligence. So how does this steady intelligence come about? It comes about by doing these two things, working on controlling the senses and working on becoming fixed in Krishna consciousness, becoming fixed on Krishna's service. And Rupa Goswami says in his Nectar of Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ado Shraddha Tatak Sadhu Sangota Bhajana Kriya Tato Narta Vritti Syat Tato Nishtha. So Nishtha is this Kevala Bhakti or Sthita Pragya stage. But in the beginning, Ado, there's Shraddha, which is faith. So there's some conviction, but faith, Prabhupada explains that this faith is at the basis of all the rest of the stages. So it starts with faith, with a little conviction, or as Prabhupada translates, in the beginning, one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. So it begins with some faith that this is going to be beneficial to me, that there's some desire to progress. There's some conviction that this is, hey, this will maybe work out well. And then tatak, from that, sadhu sangha means association with devotees. So Prabhupada translates, this will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated, sadhu sangha. And atak, from that, bhajana kriya. So bhajana kriya, Prabhupada translates it in various ways. Bhajana kriya, bhajana means doing devotional service, and kriya means to doing devotional service. And Prabhupada says that in the next stage, one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master. And under his instruction, the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. So contained within those words, bhajana kriya, Prabhupada doesn't take it lightly, that just to perform devotional service or to engage in bhakti requires guidance. So we need a guru. So contained within that word bhajana kriya is the implication that one should take initiation from a guru and under his guidance begin the process of devotional service. Then anartha nivritti. Then anartha means getting rid of all of the unwanted things and the contaminations, the materialistic influences. Nivritti, meaning stopping. So Prabhupada then translates, by the execution of devotional service under the guidance of the spiritual master, again, he emphasizes, one becomes free from all material attachment. And then anartha nivritti syat, and tato, from that, nishta, and attains steadiness, conviction, fixed, kevala, or sthita pragya. All those are similar. So, in summary, for conviction or kevala bhakti, one should control the senses and give up material enjoyment. Control the senses and give up material enjoyment. And we know that's difficult because Vishwamitra had trouble. So it is difficult. So perform bhakti while attempting to be fixed on Krishna. And this is done by controlling the lower self by the higher self while performing bhakti under the guidance of a guru. And I've added these: surrender with words, intelligence, wealth, and life. Krishna says that he's talking about the trees, how the trees are so charitable. And he talks about people should be charitable with their words, intelligence, wealth, and life. And in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Lord Chaitanya quotes that. It's a quote from, I think, the 11th canto, 10th or 11th canto. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quotes that and says that we should surrender to Krishna with words, intelligence, wealth, and life. And finally, glorify Krishna through chanting his names and celebrating his leelas. So look at that, 2 minutes to 2. I think I'll have to do some kind of a filler for 2 minutes. Let me see if there was something else. So anyway, just to kind of, another kind of summary is that I mentioned Hansadutta, and I just picked up, even though we were young, and as I said, Hansadutta was a little wild, but I don't think I mentioned this, but he said that his wife, he's separated from his wife, Himavati. And Himavati was, as I said, one of the main women in ISKCON at the time. She was very capable and gave a lecture for 20,000 people in India and many other things. Excuse me. And so after many years, he hadn't seen Himavati. So Himavati, probably here the real pronunciation is Himavati, but Himavati we called her. So she contacted him and wanted to borrow some money or have some money or something. So he thought, okay, you know, no problem. You know, he was honoring her that she was such a nice devotee. And he said, and she still is a devotee. He said she doesn't visit the temple, but she's still a devotee. And so they met, and then they were talking, and he said, well, why did you go along with me through this whole journey of joining? They were married before they were devotees. And he said, I want to be a devotee. And she said, okay. And she came along and she did so much service. They both did. In Germany and India, they're famous. And so he said, well, why did you go along with me? And she said, you were so convinced. So this is and then I had this idea that devotees they communicated that conviction and they did everything. I think the last talk I gave on Wednesday, I was talking about a little bit about Ananta Shanti from Russia. And he went through 5.5 years of of psychiatric institute in Russia, in USSR. Tremendous. They put him through hell, and underground, preaching underground in Russia for so many years. And as a result, Russia is, outside of India, Russia is the most successful in Krishna consciousness, in spreading Krishna consciousness, at least in terms of gathering people, new devotees, active devotees. So one devotee in Africa, the revolutionaries came into the temple. They took all the devotees, and the revolutionaries took them outside of town, and they were going to kill them all. And this woman, she jumped in front of the devotees and sacrificed herself and died by the gun. My friend Tribhuvannath, he used to go to Middle East and to Beirut during the time when there was a war in Beirut, artillery shelling. And so devotees were convinced. They acted on that conviction. And maybe throughout their lives, some of them became big gurus. We hear their names: Radhanath Swami, Indradumna Swami, and Praladanandan, and so many, Giriraj and Dayananda, all these wonderful devotees who maintain. But these other devotees, through their conviction and communicating that conviction to others, spread this movement all over the world. And it's my belief that through that conviction for 10 or sometimes even 5, 10, 15 years, they were able to maintain themselves for the rest of their lives. There are many stories of devotees who strayed away. They did some nice service, some really fundamental service, and then maybe they were not very closely in contact with devotees, and then at the end of their life, they put themselves in association with devotees and think of Krishna, listen to tapes of Krishna. Another devotee just passed away, Karnamrita. He was in Vrindavan for many years, and I knew him fairly well. He studied Sanskrit. He was very capable, a British devotee, he liked Shakespeare. He was a Shakespeare aficionado, and he studied Sanskrit. He became quite good. He taught Sanskrit in Vrindavan, and so he just recently passed away. And he had some disease. He wasn't very mobile, and he used to just stay at home. And he was a little against ISKCON. He had some issues, and so he wasn't so active. But then at the end, his daughter played a tape for Prabhupada for him. So for 24 hours before he died, he was listening to a tape of Prabhupada. And so this is the way with conviction. I'm convinced that if you spend some time with this Narayana Parayana, if you become fixed on Krishna through serving the Guru and through serving this mission, this Sankirtan mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you just try to practice that Kevala Bhakti with conviction and communicate that conviction to others, and these devotees who did that, okay, questions or comments?
May I say something?
Yes, please. Questions or comments? Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Prabhu, for a truly wonderful, wonderful presentation. I was taking notes all the time. I'm going to listen to the recording again because I missed a little bit. My laptop died out. I had to get back in. But this was a wonderful presentation about conviction and how to reach that point of conviction and the rewards of reaching that point of conviction. So I'm just very grateful that you took up the subject matter and also presented it from so many different angles of vision, quoting from the various scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Instruction, and so on. So that made it very rich and very authorized and very authentic. So thank you for this absolutely marvelous presentation. I'm very grateful to you. My humble obeisance. All glories to Prabhupada.
Prabhu, there's something I read in Bhagavatam that resonated with me. When I think about conviction, I think about it extinguishing my anguish, my anxiety. And when I do have this anxiety or these doubts, it's due to my lack of. So there's something I read in the 5th canto in some notes, talking about the great qualities of a pure devotee. So Prabhupada says, a devotee is firmly convinced of his spiritual identity. He never identifies with the body. He is firmly convinced that the spirit soul is different from the body. Consequently, he fears nothing. Even though his life may be threatened, he is not at all afraid. And this is the part that hits me too. He does not even treat an enemy like an enemy. Such are the qualifications of devotees. Devotees are always fully dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the Lord is always eager to give them all protection in all circumstances. And that's like that one sentence there. He does not even treat an enemy like an enemy. I think it can, like, people we have differences with, they have differences with us, and we don't realize that when we shut somebody out, that's also a lack of faith or lack of conviction in the process. There have been times in the past where I've had my doubts or trust issues or whatever, and I see my guru always trying to make the extra effort to work it out. But I just I've seen how all of us, we go through this difficulty, and we don't realize that if our relationships aren't Krishna conscious, then we don't have firm faith in the process. And I think that gets kind of muddied up. I don't know if that makes any sense. If you could elaborate on that, or
Yes. I think I'm still on, right? Yeah. One word that is a little different. My response is that one word that jumps out is without fear. Prabhupada says, could you read that again? Just that one or two sentences where Prabhupada says without fear.
He never identifies with the body. He is firmly convinced that the spirit soul is different from the body. Consequently, he fears nothing.
Yes. So I was looking and doing little research for this. I came across another verse that I decided not to use, where Prabhupada also says, it might have been the same one, but I don't think it was, that he said that use the word abhaya, without fear. And Prabhupada's name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta. That A means abhaya, means without fear. Without fear, Prabhupada indicates that a sannyasi must be without fear. It's a stage in life, or a stage in consciousness, a stage of advancement in Krishna consciousness, to be without fear. Because that's one of the things that it's so difficult to be free of fear. How can we be free of fear? We might even minimize our eating or our sleeping or give up sex, but to be without fear, it's such a fundamental aspect of our lives. we have no idea how much we're influenced by some kind of fear, a subtle fears that lurk in our psyche. So fear is it's an important component. And that's another thing. I think devotees were fearless. Because they had some conviction, they may have lost some conviction or got a little diluted, but as a part of that conviction, fearlessness, that to go into all these different places, going to, one time I heard the story of Armenia, devotees in Armenia. It's very Christian country, so they were beaten, devotees were beaten up, and devotees were fearless, going in the streets and wearing robes, strange robes. And a friend of mine went to Israel, and they were chanting in the streets, and somebody put a cigarette out on his head because they were laughing because he had a shaved head. But fearless, dressing in robes and going out on the streets and singing, and nobody had seen such robes or anything, and they were just fearless about their, maybe not in terms of getting beaten up or something, but fearless about what people would think about them. And then all these devotees were going on book distribution. Now, some devotees were expert, like Hansaduta was saying how he already knew how to kind of talk to people on the street and get them to give a little money. So some people knew how to do that kind of thing, but most devotees they couldn't talk to people on the street and stop people and ask them to donate money or sell books or something like that. So everybody had to overcome their fear of rejection, fear of approaching people. All those fears had to be overcome. And how was it done? It was done by conviction. It was done by devotees who had the conviction to tell them to overcome your inhibitions, become convinced, and go out and do all these things, and go to wherever they had to go in the world. So all these things, overcoming fear, I think that's a very important point. Oh, and I was going to say, my dear friend Rupa Vilas has written a book, Without Fear. What is it? It has a longer name. Something Without Fear. It's another biography of Prabhupada. So this idea of fearlessness, very important.
So it's like like it all, it made me think too about how Prabhupada had mentioned to, I don't know what devotee, but he said, the problem with you is that you're not scared of Maya. So at the same time, it's like, we do have to be fearful of material energy and people who are absorbed in material energy. So it's like, a weird kind of back and forth situation.
Yes. Yeah, if you read Prahlad's prayers, he says in his prayers to Lord Nrsimha that he indicates that he's afraid of Maya, and yet there's all this discussion of how there's no question that Maya will touch Prahlad, and yet he's. And then another place he says, I'm afraid of nothing. One place he says, I'm not afraid of anything. And he's not afraid of Lord Nrsimha. No, everyone else is a little bit afraid of Lord Nrsimha, and he's not. And yet he's a little afraid of Maya. It goes sort of both ways. He's not afraid of anything, but then also careful, not a little healthy regard, fear.
Do you think I can ask a question, Prabhu, if you don't mind? So my question is this, I'm not so scared of the virus as I am of some of the people who are going nuts, due to this virus situation, honestly speaking. I'll just very briefly describe, not because I want to complain, because I want to learn how I'm supposed to conduct myself and how I'm supposed to deal with this situation. You see, I live a little bit away from the temple. So this was just at the start of COVID, and when I went into the temple, people started freaking out and they started screaming at me. And it was almost like, what's going on? What's going on? And much later, I was processing that and I was thinking maybe they got scared because I live outside and I'm coming in from outside. Maybe I'm going to bring the virus or something. But if that was the concern, why was it conveyed in that way? They literally screamed at me and they said, from where you're coming, why you're coming here, that kind of thing, and just lost it. And from then on, I've just stayed away. So I'm just wondering whether people's own fears and their anxieties and their inability to deal with the situation, whether they just erupt and they lose it, and then how I'm supposed to deal with that situation. If you can just guide me, that would be helpful.
Well, there's a lot of disagreement among, I've noticed there seemed to be a lot of disagreement among the devotee community about how to react. And for the most part, it seems to me that the temples, I heard immediately the major temples like London, the Manor, Los Angeles. I was with Vaisheshika in San Francisco when he, right at the beginning, in the beginning of March, when he addressed his congregation and told them to be careful, and if they felt sick at all, don't do their service, don't do your service, don't come to the temple. He was starting already, and I feel that was responsible. I thought that was good, that the temples, Mayapur, all these places, they're being very careful to try to listen to the various authorities who are saying to what is it, social distancing and isolation and that kind of thing. So I agree with that. I think that that's responsible. And yet there are others that question, well, why can't we just depend on Krishna? But then there are enough examples. There are a few examples that have been stated that I've seen online, that quoting Prabhupada, that one time, once or twice, I think Prabhupada was under quarantine because he was traveling a lot of places and they were concerned about yellow fever and that kind of thing. And so he just went along with it. It's a balance. Prabhupada was sometimes indifferent when they were bombing. I think he was at Kumbh Mela or something, that someplace he was, maybe not there, but there was war between Russia and Pakistan about East Pakistan, and there was some bombing or threat of bombing, and he was supposed to close his window and he was just ignoring it, and he said, well, if Krishna wants, we'll die. If Krishna wants to protect us, no one can kill us. So it's kind of a balance, we have to know, we have to use good sense. And I agree with you that in using our good sense, we're going to then depend on Krishna, and if he decides that it's time for us to go, then okay, we can't be all upset that, oh, because I didn't make this one small arrangement, then I've caused my death. It's Krishna, he decides. And then as far as people getting upset with you, well, from your side, you can't really control other people's behavior. it seems to me that it may be difficult to have a sort of an equipoised response, or to be unaffected by anger, but ultimately we have to get over it. Krishna says, "Tangstitikshasva bharata," that we have to tolerate things, hot, cold, winter, summer. So I think other people's anger also is in that same category, that we have to tolerate also. I mean, you keep saying things like, "Oh, Dayananda, this was a nice class, so much," and I mean, I don't really enjoy too much, getting too much praise. And so we have to tolerate that. And then if you came on and you said, "Dayananda, you're horrible, you're just, the worst devotee, I'm never going to listen to your class," so then maybe it would affect me a little, but I have to get over it. That happens. I can't blame you. I can't say, "Oh, well, she's a devotee. She shouldn't be speaking like that." I have no control over you. One time, my friend Hansaduta, when I first met him, he came to Los Angeles, and when I first met him, he came to Los Angeles, and I had an apartment right near the temple, and we had a garage. So he and Himavati stayed in the garage. That was their accommodation, because there was no place in the temple. And so somehow I always felt that, this kind of closeness, because he stayed in my garage. I always remember that. And so then after Prabhupada departed, he became a big guru. He was one of the big 11 gurus. And now we know only about 3 of them are left, and 7 had difficulties. So he was a big guru, and as I said, he was able to organize men. He was very attractive as a leader for young men to follow. Sometimes young men are like that. They like to have a captain or a general or somebody that they can, that's why you have armies, armies of men, they listen to their superiors. I think men there's something in men's nature, they can be organized like that, and they can follow other men. So he was like that. He was a good leader. And so we were in Mayapur. I wanted to go see him. I thought, "Oh, he's my friend, I'll go see him." But I wasn't, I don't know, I wasn't like a big devotee or something, A lot of devotees, maybe they thought, I'm senior, but in this case, I wasn't, So I went to see him, but he had guards outside of his room. And I said, "I want to see Hansaduta. I'm his friend." And they said, "No, go away." So I thought, "Whoa, what is that?" So then one time after that, years after that, I was visiting Los Angeles for some reason, and all of a sudden he was walking down the street. At that time, he was removed then from ISKCON. He was no longer guru. He was walking on the other side of the street, and he waves, he sees me, and he waves, he goes, "Dayananda, Haribol." So the same man, I'm feeling affection and friendship, and then I was prevented from seeing him, and then another time, Haribol. And so sometimes, we get some kind of treatment, strange treatment from devotees. You can't take it too seriously. Maybe at the time, how can we avoid? What can we do? But Love for devotees. I think that that's one thing, with all my faults, that's one thing that I think has carried me forward from the beginning till now, is somehow or other I've loved devotees. So sometimes you get a little bit strange behavior. Devotees are eccentric. They're all over the place in terms of their characteristics, and they may not completely match with your characteristics.
Okay, thank you. That was helpful.
Oh, okay. So, how's it going, Lee?
Lee, your mic's off. You got to turn your mic on. Okay, there you
Good
go.
to see you, Prabhu. Everything's good. I'm hanging out here at the house. My mother's actually visiting.
Oh, really? How are the kids
Yeah.
going? They're not getting stir crazy, are they? That was-
Yes, they are.
That was that was a joke.
They are very much stir crazy. I created a disc golf course in the backyard. And, Rowan can really throw the frisbee. He's gotten good at it. But yeah,
Very
things are,
nice.
yeah. How is everybody? It's great to see you guys too.
How you doing, Brady? I haven't seen you in a while. What's going on?
Hare Krishna. I'm doing okay. Working a lot. There's a lot going on lately.
Really, you're
Trying to
working.
keep up.
You're climbing those towers, huh?
Yes. Yep.
Oh, you're one of the indispensable people then, huh?
Something like that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You and the nurses and doctors, people can't live without you, huh?
Something. Yeah. I mean, you know, we all need our phone service.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they're keeping me very busy. We're backed up for, I think, a couple more months or so.
But phone service, I thought you do power. You
No, I do phone reception and internet service for AT&T.
Oh, I thought, but you were doing power, weren't you, for a while, climbing poles or climbing towers?
No, it's AT&T
Oh,
phone service.
oh, okay. I had the impression it was power lines.
No, we're taller. But yes, it's very good to keep in tune with all this. It's helping me out. I need to get more in touch with it all. I miss it. I miss you guys.
Good. Yeah, we miss you too.
I'm hoping all this blows over and I can get back to San Antonio.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm inspired by Hansaduda. I want to get 12 men together in a bus and go travel the world.
Yeah.
So you'll come with me, Brady?
Sure. Oh, let's do it.
Yeah, I talk now, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, me too. I did write something, I think last conference. I've been so busy trying to catch up on weekends that I haven't been able to say anything. I wrote down here, where is the dividing line between surrender and free will or personal initiative? You have
Well,
something to say.
Prabhupada explains that we have minute free will. that our minute free will is to accept to serve Krishna or to serve Maya. So as sometimes people think their free will, it goes beyond that, that they have the ability to choose between good and bad. I can be a good person or a bad person, but these things are just because we're a good person because of the influence of the mode of goodness. And that influence is because of our previous activities. We can gradually rise up to that position. But it's also because we can rise up to that position, but it's because we acknowledge the higher powers. So in order to rise up, we have to acknowledge that we serve the demigods or Vishnu, Krishna. So if we acknowledge a higher power, then we can gradually rise up. But we don't really have self-control to be good or bad, to rise up or to go down. Is that okay?
Yes.
I mean, we have the choice. We do have that choice to look forward, to serve Krishna's representatives as the demigods or his representatives or the devotees, or to try to serve Krishna, Vishnu, Krishna. But so we do have that choice. But as far as like making sort of being in control of our destiny, other than that one choice, our free will is very small. So we can choose to be ensnared by Maya, to be completely absorbed in, Prabhupada says, sense gratification, to be completely absorbed in our ignorance. It's identification with the body, or we can make the other choice to go the other way. But service, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jiver Sarupoi Nityer Krishna Dasa, that we're eternally servants of Krishna. So when we realize to some degree that we are servants and we try to serve a higher power, then we're on the right track. So that service. There's a song, I have a friend who's always quoting Bob Dylan. So there's a song that Bob Dylan says, you can, what's it? You serve the devil or you can serve the Lord. Something like that, anyway. So, yeah, we have that small choice.
Yes. It was kind of there's like the saying where God helps those who help themselves.
Yes, Prabhupada used to quote that sometimes. Yeah, sometimes people say, we talk to people and they say, well, I have some faith in God or Krishna. They say, well, when God so moves me, when I get moved, as if God were going to force them to be devotees. It's like, yeah, it's like if a man is or if a woman and a man are maybe a little interested in each other, that it can't be forced. You can't just force somebody to love another person. It's not forcible.
I heard a joke based on this, that there was a man who was drowning in a sea, and a ship came by and said, do you need help? And the man refused and said, don't worry, God will save me. And so he kept struggling. And then another ship pulled up and said, excuse me, do you need help? And he says, no, don't worry about me, God will save me. And then eventually he struggled so long that he drowned. passed away, and he goes to heaven, and or wherever, and he sees God. He sees God, and he says, God, why didn't you save me? And he says, I sent you 2 boats, you dummy.
Yeah, that's good. There's another one too. It's similar. The guy's drowning in the ocean, and he prays, oh God, save me, God, save me. I'll dedicate my life to you if you save me. And so the boat comes and saves him, and then he's so relieved, and then later. I sometimes I can't remember jokes well. I could make it up, but I don't know if it'll communicate well. But anyway, the problem, then he doesn't serve God in the rest of his life because he has this idea that God didn't save him, the boat did. So people are like that. I've seen how people are like that. People now that they feel the stress of the virus, we'll probably see it as we come in contact with people. People will be interested. They'll say, oh, I don't know. I've been thinking about spirituality. Now, with the threat of death, with the threat of the virus, I have nothing to do. My work is disrupted, all these things that people are going through. And then when it clears up, then people will forget their spiritual side. Prabhupada called it, in Bengali, apparently, I don't know the Bengali, but there's something called like cemetery renunciation or funeral renunciation, meaning that, people are told in India that you should be renounced. And there's this sort of respect for sadhus and people who are renounced. So people go to a funeral and they come face to face with death. It's the death of their friend or relative or loved one. And so then they think, I have to become renounced. And funeral renunciation. It only lasts while you're at the funeral. And then when you leave, you don't feel that anymore. So yeah, now's the time to grab people though. People get a little spiritual. I experienced it in Iran during the revolution, that people felt somehow a little spiritual. They were inquisitive. Why is this happening? This whole business of a revolution. So people say that about the virus. Why is this happening? I know it must be some government conspiracy. No, it's something, I can't understand. It's not being managed well. Trump is not managing. But if we were Democrats, we would do better. If this happened, it's just crazy. Why is it going on? People are they can't understand that these things happen. War, famine, plague, earthquakes, volcanoes, floods. Bill Gates, yeah. Everyone. Somebody's rich, I'm poor, all these things, they happen. It's the world of suffering. Especially in the West, though, people tend not to be. They don't like that outlook in life. They think it's very defeatist outlook. I don't see it as defeatist. It's realistic, that's all. That doesn't mean we stop, just like you said, Brady, it doesn't mean we stop working, or we have the attitude that God helps those who help themselves. We have to continue to work, to do our practice, to do devotional service, to make something out of ourselves or in connection with spiritual life. But this idea that, somehow to prevent death. This is in the Mahabharata. Yudhishthir, there was some trick that Yudhishthir, he and all of his brothers went to a lake to to drink water, and his brothers all died. But there was I forget what you would call him. I don't know in the Sanskrit, like a magician or genie or somebody who killed them, his brothers, and then he had the ability to bring them back to life. And so he said, but you have to answer some riddles. So one of the riddles that he made Yudhishthir answer, who he answered successfully, was that the answer, at least to the riddle, was that how is it that everyone dies? We've seen that everyone dies. We have no information of anybody who doesn't die. And we celebrate the fact that somebody lives to 104. So we know that nobody's going to live past 104 or 110 or whatever it is. And all our relatives have died. And some young people have died. Everyone's dying. And yet we're in denial. So people with the virus is coming, and how are we going to prevent death? Everyone's upset. So yeah, we should act responsibly. It's not like we should go willy-nilly in the street, but to be too upset about it, say, oh, it's horrible. It's life. And it's another reason why we should be dedicated in Krishna consciousness. And some people are feeling that, they feel that a little bit, but it's important that it not just be funeral renunciation. We have to continue with the same attitude. Now we need to surrender, and we need to continue once we're safe, and once we're, once we're feeling safe and happy and satisfied, the money's rolling in, everything is nice. We need to remember to surrender at that time as well. I don't want to keep everyone too long. Bhagwan Narada, should we chant some more?
Sure. I just wanted to mention that my wife and I were talking. We're thinking about doing like a little plate pickup next Saturday if devotees want to come, and maybe one devotee would like, or a couple would like to volunteer to maybe do drop-offs. But we're planning on cooking like a nice opulent kind of maybe 4 to 5 course meal for everybody. We just need a head count. I don't think we're going to promote it like to the public, but mostly just to internal devotees, congregation, and maybe a few of the newcomers and whatnot. So I don't know what time, but we'll post that on the WhatsApp group.
Excuse me.
So I don't know what would work for everybody, but we're thinking probably midday Saturday, and I don't know what we'll just take a vote on the menu. No, we'll make the menu. Okay, we'll just make the menu. I'm just the assistant. Okay, yeah, we'll do a little kirtan.
Well, I'm into getting prasadam. I'm very strictly isolating myself since I'm old. So I can definitely donate some money for if that will help.
Whichever. I mean, we can discuss about it. Right now, we've got it covered. We've gotten a few donations in that we can cover it, so there's no big anxiety on it. But if you like, that's fine. If not, no problem. But yeah, we'll have it on Saturday, and then let me see where's the harmonium. Can you bring me the harmonium, please? And then we'll see if we can ship Sri Devi Mataji some cookies.
I was just thinking how I wish I could be there. I would love to be part of this whole thing. Oh, that is so sweet.
Yeah, my wife's been shipping some to my guru. He doesn't take sugar and stuff, so she's doing these like fancy buckwheat carob cookies. So she knows how to pack them, and or we won't do those. We could do whatever, but she knows how to ship and pack the cookies nicely, so we can work something out.
I look forward to that. Thank you. That is very sweet. Unexpected, but very sweet.
Okay. You're welcome. Hare Krishna. Let me okay, we'll do a little chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada Ki Jai. So also my Nardi is going to do a little Vaishnavi Sangha, right?
Yes, I don't know the day.
We don't
yet.
know when, probably this week sometime.
Yeah, but if I'm gonna post it on the woman's website.
On the woman, there's a woman's WhatsApp group. We got to make a men's WhatsApp group. We need balance. Joking. Okay, so she's gonna do that as well, and then maybe there'll be a cooking class or something too somewhere. All right, thank y'all, everyone. It was nice to see you.
Would you send that information to me also? Because Aparajita was just remembering Naradi and she said we used to have a Vaishnavi Sangha, so I'm sure she would like to get on.
She's the reason why we're doing it. She had messaged me and she had asked if we could do it. So
Oh,
Maybe together on
glad
some
to
sort.
hear that. Very nice. Please include me so I can, unless you're having it only for the young people, in which case I'm fine. But if it's
we just barely started talking about it. So once we get the date and everything, I will send all that information out.
So just yesterday,
yeah,
right? Maybe.
unless, like I said, it's a group only for the young Vaishnavis that you're mentoring, then I
No,
don't
it's
step on
open.
any toes.
And Harita Mataji, please join too. And I don't know who Galaxy S8 Plus is. I think it might be Sarah. Please join. Feel free to join. And maybe y'all can work on a topic or something. I don't know. I think they organized it yesterday. My wife just got the news.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, Prabhu.
All right.
Thank you.
You signed up. Thank y'all so much, and we'll see y'all soon. And then we'll post in the WhatsApp group about the prasadam, and just come pick up, or maybe there'll be one or two devotees that volunteer. And then Brady, we could try to send you some cookies too if you like. Just let us know what type of cookies you want. So thank y'all so much.
Yeah, it'd be great.
I would like the information for the girls group if it's at all possible.
Yeah, we'll send it to you for sure. We'll definitely
I
do that.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. And I'm trying to see if Guru Prasad Swami, my Guru Maharaj, will speak next Sunday. He said he would, possibly. He told me a week ago. And then Jivananda Prabhu is going to speak Wednesday. And Tuesday will either be Narottam Ananda Prabhu or myself just reading like a chapter out of Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, like we did this past Tuesday. So Tuesday and Wednesday at 6:30 as well. Thank y'all so much. It was nice to see everybody, and I hope we can do programs face-to-face soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.